Hi, this is Dr. Peterman for Challenge Life Better. Let's talk about making your own version of some sinus and allergy preparations, a tincture, if you will. We're in the tincture lab at Time Challenger Laboratories, and sometimes it's very interesting to take products that are already manufactured and solve some problems. But what if you can't get a hold of that? So let's make our own. Well, follow me outside and we're going to go and see what nature will provide. This particular area is in the central part of Texas and will yield a lot of various kinds of plants that can really help you avoid a lot of problems with sinus and allergies. So let's take some close looks at some of these plants. Even items as simple as roses can add some levels of discomfort to certain people. And of course, occasionally you'll find some rosemary blooming, which in the spring and early summer can also yield some allergens too. But some of the most significant be the weeds that will blossom out into large flowers, and some have already done that. So you can see some of the small flora that's around that's beginning to put out a lot of pollen. How can this possibly be an answer? All of these materials be an answer to the problem of sinus suffering and allergies. Let's take a real close look at how we actually prepare this material, or how we'll teach you to prepare it. To begin the tincture process, one of the things we need is a nice large 2-gallon jar. And this will be where we place the green materials, various flowers and various leaves, etc., into the jar. Let's begin harvesting by coming into the rosemary plant and taking off some of this material with a sharp knife. Make sure you capture all of the flowers, and that's real important because that's where most of the pollen is. So you place that material into the jar, and it's as simple as that. We're going to go to various other plants and do the same thing. We don't want to use too much of any one thing because, for example, rosemary, although it has a lot of pollen, you really don't want to take and put a lot of that material in there, or the product will be more of a rosemary tincture than the product that we're looking forward to. We'll also want to take some rose petals, rose material that's fresh, because this new material is also laden with pollen and various other components that can be of allergen-bearing materials. Now, of course, we need to get down and get some of this material from these big, large flowering plants and do the best we can on that. Just stuff it all in there, it doesn't matter. Make sure you get a lot of the seed pods and potential flowers for later. That's real important. We have to remember that in the world of pollen and allergens, a lot of trees produce pollen that is very irritating. So we're going to include some of this material in our preparation. Again, you have more of the same, all kinds of plants that produce a lot of pollen. Here's an example of an earthworm that is absolutely covered with every kind of wildflower and various kinds of pollen producers. Now comes the interesting part in the lab of what do we do. Once we have the jar completely filled with the plants and packed down real well, what is the next step? Well, the next step is fairly simple. What we do is to take a liter of 95% grain alcohol and go ahead and pour that in to the jar. So that's what we will do. And this will then, over a period of anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, completely extract all of the various materials. And go ahead and use about, if you're going to make a couple of gallons, go ahead and use the at least 2 of these liters of alcohol material. And that will give you the material that you need. And see, then after that, I will be adding to add to that, because right now we're at about this level right here. I will add some distilled water, and distilled water and alcohol together work a lot better than just alcohol. So that's where we are right now, and I will show you some material of what it looks like once it is gone through all the stages of extraction. Okay, I promised you that I'd show you what this material looks like. It has a very nice, beautiful green color, which comes from the chlorophyll being extracted by the alcohol and the distilled water. So this is something that you can make yourself, and if you did it right, 3 to 5 drops a day under the tongue is going to be all you need in order for the body to build a tolerance for everything that's around you. My grandfather would have said it's very much like a drunk who wakes up with a hangover and takes a little shot of whiskey, a little hair of the dog, if you will. See, a little bit of this material introduced every day in a very, very tiny amount gives the body a wake-up call to say, okay, just ignore these things that you find in the environment. And I don't know anybody that hasn't had success with this. Everybody that's tried it, I'm told, well, look at this. This is already beginning to turn nice and beautiful and green just in a very, very short time. So at the end of about 4 to 6 weeks, it will be absolutely fantastic. And at that point, then it becomes ready to bottle, and it has really no expiration date. You can use it for a very long time because it's alcohol, and it's also with a little bit of colloidal silver of 20 parts per million.